20 minutes of water, that's 6 million gallons of water that you're never getting back. I mean, I don't want to belittle that. That's still not a good thing. But I just hate to hear facts exaggerated. Another thing, you talk about putting it on the ballot. Honestly, if that question on the ballot, I wouldn't answer. I really think a survey is a better way to go, because where, like Mr. Zorick said, just a simple question like that, I mean, how do you really answer, are you for or against drilling? Well, and where, under what conditions, under current regulations, under future regulations? I mean, things could change. And that's another thing. I think that really a good thing to do would be to keep pushing Charleston to make the regulations stricter. I mean, that's where the most control lies, is in Charleston. And I think that should be where we concentrate.
Thanks, Scott. I don't have another name from this side of the room written down. Does anybody over here want to raise a hand? Marty?
Yes. Over and above what the landowner is going to get from this gas, what is the state of West Virginia going to receive? That's one question. And then it's my understanding, correctly, that the landowner that says yes, they're promised free gas for the rest of their life. Somewhere they don't tell you it's going to cost you $30,000 to hook up.
Okay, Arnie, so your first question is about what the state gets when it's
Right,
from a
we
drilling
should
operation.
all happens, we should be a very rich state.
Severance taxes, and some of those come back to this county. We get, for example, coal severance tax payments now, even though we don't mind it. But that's to answer your first question, the state gets some money, a lot of money.
It's my understanding too that most of this gas is going overseas.
I've heard that. There's truth about the market value of natural gas here being much less than it is in Europe. So there's actually a profit to be made by getting gas here and selling it overseas. That's true. Okay. I completely forgot what you said. What was it?
Oh, I had heard it mentioned that when you agree on one of the promises.
Free gas.
Free gas.
Yeah, that's not
$7,000 to hook up.
Yeah, right. The gas coming out is just, this is by account of people in West Virginia we talked to, that they're not getting free gas. It has to be refined before it comes back. So that's something to be, as a leaseholder, you want to start bringing some funds and find out if you get free gas.
Well, one thing you want to clear up on that, there are several different layers of gas in different products. Everything's propane, butane, Marshall, whatever. There is some points where you can get free gas, but Marshall is not one of those points. So just because you lease your gas rights and it says free gas, don't necessarily mean there's no chance that you ever get free gas, but it don't mean you're going to get free gas either. Depends on what type of gas they extract.
Okay. I'm getting a lot of answers this side of the room. I'm just trying to go back and forth just to sort of balance it out here, but I'm not seeing any more questions from over here, so I'm just going to, okay. Service in the red.
One of the issues being the county talking about cars in comparison or cars formation.
Okay.
I come from the field of agriculture and worked in several states. The cars territory goes to Maryland, Pennsylvania, through West Virginia, right on out through Kentucky, Tennessee, and Missouri, and other areas. I don't see what a lot of people are thinking about the sacredness of the Carson territory on some county, because really, a large portion. That's all I want to say. It seems like I've heard a lot of that. Try to hit on that issue all the time, you know, and that's up to Carson territory.
Yeah. Yes, again, I think it behooves us to continue to work with DEP to say our karst is special. If a lot of our groundwater flows through it, let's make sure we don't mess that up. Your point's well taken. Jerry?
Yeah. While you mentioned about putting zoning on a ballot to vote, and once you get a ballot, or I mean zoning in the county, Does it stay there forever? And you, before long, you'd be building, getting a permit to build a fence or a shed, whatever?
I think there's all kinds of different ways to zone. I think the idea about the zoning on the ballot, Laurie brought down without trying to find specific zoning controls.
That were specific to the gas drilling.
What-
Yeah, I don't think what a farmer does with his land, I don't
It's
care.
hard to get rid of that kind of stuff.
Well,
It's very hard to get rid of.
It could be, Jerry. I don't know. I would say that any law the county commission passes could be undone by other commissions. Any ordinance we pass can be undone. So, politics change, things like that come and go. Jerry, I do think that if we were to have zoning, then that necessitates a zoning board, a zoning panel, something like that. So I think it's fair to say that when you have more people into the play of the decision-making process, it's kind of harder to get those people out of the decision-making process. Whether controls for zoning on Marcellus shale drilling would grow to saying you can or cannot build a shed on this part of your land, I think it's a really far stretch. And that would be further consideration.
Your bid pay.
Yeah. It would depend on how the zoning is written.
Generally, when you create a zoning board, eventually it is populated by people who can butter their bread sitting at those meetings. And those people are generally people in the real estate industry, people in the construction industry, and those people, to butter their bread, want to regulate everything that might have an impact on the market value of property. So I think the inevitable trend of zoning boards is to regulate everything.
Zoning
That's what
boards
they
do not write the zoning ordinances, they enforce them.
Well, they inform the people who write the ordinances, and they
Maybe
interpret
not.
them.
Maybe.
I've served on zoning boards.
I was a reporter and covered zoning boards for 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Jerry, I appreciate the question very much. Go back, there was another hand. Yes, sir.
I was just, still on the water issue, how you get a one-sided answer from Mr. Walker from the oil and gas industry, but I don't hear any information about the materials that are in the fracking fluids from people who are fracking. Because I can see problems if you do have contaminated water and an individual contracts cancer, he's going to spend $100,000 a year on medication, and probably, well, he has 20 acres, he won't quite break even with the cost. And not only that, having an ambulance and all that.
Thank you.
And also on the matter of whether or not you can regulate, is there not a moratorium in Pocahontas County on strip mining?
Ayes and ayes.
Fire.
Expired. Charlie, do you have a word or two you know about that? You can speak to
It's
the council.
expired.
Okay, that's 2 words, thanks. It's expired.
Yes, but I mean, he asked you, could it be done or how it was done?
Okay. That's a good question. I don't know when a moratorium on tree mining was instituted in Pocahontas County. Charlie?
During the Rockefeller was on anti-mining campaign for certain miners when after.
Okay. I want to make note of that, just look into that for my notification. I want to talk about your earlier comment about speakers coming in one-sided, such as the industry professionals that Jamie mentioned. I think it's just kind of goes to the territory that when we have experts come in from either side, it's going to sort of lean one way or the other. I don't have a problem with that. I think experts are experts in what they do. And if they're sort of experts in the drilling practice, then they're going to seem one-sided because they know a lot about that. If they're experts in the environmental concerns, they're going to seem one-sided because they're going to talk about how the sheer quantities of those unknown fracking chemicals are in fact unknown and dangerous. I certainly expect this commission will facilitate more speakers over the coming year. I particularly think we ought to do such in the evening, because the evening meetings it's easier for you all to attend, I do believe, in daytime meetings. So I guess just to summarize, my response to that concern is look forward to more presentations from both sides of the issue so we can continue to understand what the risks and benefits are. I I think that's our responsibility to do that, to facilitate that as well.
I think it would.
Well, Dorothy, you're out of order. But I'm gonna write you down again, okay? Jamie wants to say something.
Sorry.
If I understood you correctly, you said that part of the fracking codes could possibly cause cancer, is that correct?
Benzene.
That's what I want to know.
I mean, I had heard that rumor before, whether
I
it's
don't know
fact
if
or
it's a
not.
rumor, I don't know.
Well, I don't know either, but I do know one thing. About 6 years ago, when my mother had cancer, we got to looking it up. And we supposedly had the cleanest water of anywhere in West Virginia. And 6 years ago, for the percentage-wise, there's more people in Pocahontas County that got some form of cancer than anywhere in the state of West Virginia, Brecktown. So that tells me oil and gas ain't causing cancer. Yeah. Probably killing you, right? It might do it, I don't know. There's something else here that's causing cancer, way before oil and gas.
Okay, get back to the names I have. I got 5 names written down on this side, none on this side. The next over here is Alan Johnson.
I wanted just to ask, maybe speak to the authority you have involving health and safety of the population in respect to the legislative laws of West Virginia. And this afternoon, actually, I was on a conference call, just to set the context, with some people, Dr. Michael Hendricks and Dr. Michael McCauley, who are professors at WVU on community health. And they, this is in the context of the health, serious health, impaired health data and morbidity that's been pulled to statistically proven peer-reviewed reports. And that Dr. McCauley, who spent his life career mostly with the U.S. Department of Health, went all over the world, but now he's a professor at WVU. I guess everybody turns to WVU today. But he said that on ordinances that local governments have done, well-written ordinances related to health, safety, that the West Virginia Supreme Court has never overturned it. If they are more restrictive, that is, an ordinance that is more restrictive than the state code. If it's less restrictive, that's different. But if it's more restrictive, he says that it's not been any overturned. I'm interested in following up on that more. Again, I didn't have a chance to really get into that much, so I'd like to look into that a little more. I think that ordinances to protect the public are always something to consider.